What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Wealth of the Futures channel. And today we're going to do a little bit of a recap and also discuss market strategy for my market strategy, at least for 2018. So thanks for coming along the journey. If you like this video, if you find it informative, please consider hitting that subscribe button, hit that like button. If you have questions, of course, leave those in the comments below. Always like to hear from viewers. Looking to grow this channel in 2018. Like probably many of you guys, and I'm not just saying this, I've been pretty busy with just work, 50 hours there, and then obviously just doing a bunch of research on the side for cryptos, and not necessarily hyping them, but really trying to understand the technology and figure out my own strategy for 2018. I will say this, that I think 2018, especially with the changing in the tax regulations concerning cryptos, specifically crypto to crypto type transactions, it may actually work out better for people to identify projects right now towards the end of 2017 and just hodl. And in fact, that's really the title of this video, is sharing with you guys what I plan to do. And as crazy as that sounds, if we look back at the performance of 2017 and look at, what Bitcoin did and what Litecoin did, I think most people would agree that simply hodling those coins and not trading them was actually a better move than doing all kinds of trades and keeping track of everything and potentially having some tax liabilities associated with that in 2018. So I think for my own strategy is to avoid a lot of that, avoid a lot of those issues, hodl for long-term type capital gains, and strategy is to identify projects where I could be, at least for my portfolio, which is consisting of around 8 different coins, to be successful with at least 50% of them. And I have this strategy that's tied towards a goal of accumulating, a significant amount of wealth. And I'll kind of walk through that a little bit here. So thanks for joining, you guys. I appreciate you guys coming along the journey. And yeah, without further ado, let's get started here. So one of the things I was looking at here is, what core holdings, and obviously before I start into this, I should just mention, I know you guys get annoyed with this, but I'm not obviously a financial advisor, and cryptocurrencies are, they can be extremely volatile, guys. So obviously do not invest more than you can afford to lose. These could go to the moon, in fact, some of them. They could go to zero. And all I'm sharing here is what I'm doing. I'm not recommending that people follow me, okay? But I think I owe it to the viewers of this channel to share with you guys what I'm doing, so that when I make subsequent videos in 2018, you know the perspective I'm coming from, or you understand the bias I have. And I think, shout out to Mike B actually for mentioning this, but I think most people in the crypto community within YouTube should do this, because it does show, it basically puts your cards out on the table for everybody to see. And it also gives a track record for somebody, right, for picking and identifying great opportunities for others maybe to consider. And so there's going to be times where someone is wrong for a certain percentage of the time, and maybe they're right for a certain percentage of the time. And the idea here is that overall, if you look at the person's portfolio, they maintain a relative balance. And so I've tried to work through some of that on my own portfolio, doing some experimentation and trying to control some of the volatility in the markets by having a basket of different coins. So obviously nothing goes up straight. Nothing goes up in a straight line. Nobody's perfect. And what's going on, Vass? Nobody's perfect, but you just have to be able to have some conviction in some of the projects you're following, the research you're doing, and basically develop a thesis as to why you think there's value in these projects, right? And if you can do that, even if the project goes down 30%, 40%, you're able to write that through. And as I mentioned before, with a lot of the changes, at least from what I understand in the tax rules here in the US, I think that's going to play a bigger role here. So people like me, I'm not looking to really trade in and out in 2018. Actually, my strategy is to hold these for probably at least a year, which contains its own risks. I understand it. In fact, a lot of people who I've talked to outside of cryptos who have known I've been in this, I guess, area for a couple years now, they're kind of surprised that I'm still hodling as much as I do, but I do maintain my belief that we're actually going to see a surge in more users in 2018. And in fact, most of these exchanges will not be able to keep up with the demand. That's just my expectations, especially as the apps themselves begin to demonstrate, proofs of concepts, technology, and we're gonna talk about some of those today. So not necessarily price, but just more technology, where the industry's heading, what I'm doing, and just so you guys know where I'm starting out 2018. So you can throw tomatoes at me in 2018 and tell me I was wrong, or you can give me kudos and say, that dude over there, he actually got a couple things right. So 2017 was a great year, as you guys know. For those that have followed my channel for a while, I think you may understand some of my favorites, and they've already performed very well. And so, there's been some adjustments in that portfolio, but overall, most of the projects I followed in 2017, are some of the projects I'm looking to continue to hold in 2018, and really no significant change, maybe just a shift in the allocation. And that's really as it relates to risk mitigation, right? Because you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket. That would be a bad strategy, as good of a project as something might be. You want to have a balanced portfolio, have different exposures in different industries, maybe target certain capitalizations in projects. And so I'm going to talk about how I came up with the projects I did and walk you guys through that. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you're doing something similar, and not necessarily the projects, but more just the strategy I'm using. So first and foremost, to start out, I am going with a vanilla, what I call the 50% Kings of Crypto and a 50% basket of crypto projects, okay? And the 50% of the Kings of Crypto could be anything. I consider it as really the horsemen of crypto as it stands right now, which is the higher capitalization coins, if you want to call them that. Bitcoin being the Mac Daddy, of course. So I've never really sold any Bitcoin since many years. I've just kept them and hodled them, and it continues to perform well because we're going to get a bigger adoption of users come in the space, and most of those users are going to use Bitcoin as their gateway into the crypto market, right? So areas like Coinbase and others are just going to allow Bitcoin and some of the other coins they'll have on there to propel in price, in my opinion. Not as high as some of the other projects, because some of these other projects have higher rewards but higher risk. So again, from a risk mitigation standpoint, my strategy is to allocate 50% of my portfolio into Bitcoin and Litecoin. And I'm actually doing a split here. So I've not touched the Bitcoin, but I've added some additional capital to somewhat match that amount in Litecoin. And I expect Litecoin to potentially outperform even Bitcoin. And it relates to some of the deficiencies that we see in Bitcoin, where Litecoin can help and aid in that gap. It's really the payments gap and the speed in transactions processing for that type of system, okay, for money and commerce to basically be facilitated. I see Litecoin and Bitcoin playing that role for now. There's a couple other players in the running for that, but right now Litecoin and Bitcoin, in terms of your bet that cryptocurrency market will succeed in 2018, 2019, that's a pretty solid bet, in my opinion, and it kind of provides less exposure for your risk. I mean, you're still taking a risk because it is cryptocurrencies, but out of all the basket of cryptocurrencies, those two at 50% of your overall portfolio, it's proven very, very decent for me, at least in 2017. And I expect the same things in 2018. And in fact, as I mentioned before, Bitcoin itself, Bitcoin and Litecoin and most of the Mac Daddy cryptocurrencies, the top dog. And when I say top dog cryptocurrencies, we're looking at anything over $10 billion in capitalization that have been around for several years. They actually have a track record of steady growth. They've actually done very well. So again, I'm not looking to trade those. Those are long-term, very, very long-term holdings. So then after the 50% of the main crypto, Mac Daddy coins, and some people might prefer Ethereum or others. I tend to prefer Litecoin and Bitcoin, and some might argue that Litecoin has had such a high run lately. But if you look at the rate of increase and its relationship in terms of the number of coins to Bitcoin, it really hasn't fully kept up, actually. And maybe there's some developments. This part is speculation, I will admit that. But there may be some potential developments within Litecoin due to my boy Charlie Lee coming up with a couple things that he has in the cards. One of the things I'm looking forward to with not just Litecoin, but a couple of these other projects, and I'm going to discuss why, is really a privacy type feature with the coins. And that's obviously important because think about it. If you or I, anybody who's watching this video, most people who watch this video, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm not doing anything illegal, but I don't want all my information out there. I don't want someone to know if I'm going to buy something from my girlfriend or my wife or my mom or whoever, my family member, right? I don't want someone knowing that and tracking me and being able to identify where payments are going. That sounds like a really bad idea. So coin that's going to be very successful in this regard will need to have some type of way to mask, payment links to merchants. Otherwise, it's a little bit limited in terms of its use, in my opinion. And most people like their privacy. So I'm really looking forward to actually, I think, Litecoin to maybe unveil something like that. I think that's very key. And if they do that, given their acceptance from many merchants today, it sort of brings the good question, which is, why do you then need Monero, or why would you need some of these other privacy coins that aren't as widely distributed or not as widely accepted as Litecoin is? So that's actually what I'm looking forward to in the risk reward for Litecoin, both helping Bitcoin with this payment transaction speed issue, and also the fact that potentially Litecoin can build some of these unique features that are needed for a coin that you would need, right? Just like a paper US dollar today, people love it because you can go take that paper US dollar, go wherever you want to go, and I mean, for the most part, no one knows that you move that paper dollar from your wallet to a business. They probably could do some of that investigation, but I mean, it would take a lot of work to track those numbers down and whatnot. So again, privacy is very key, in my opinion, for any coin that's looking to compete with the Mac Daddies, which would be Bitcoin, Litecoin, and right now Monero's in the good running for that because Monero already has that. So I don't have Monero in my portfolio, but that's one potentially here that, especially with the crackdown and regulations, would be something to look at. So on to the couple of projects here that I'm adding to my, yeah, exactly, strip clubs, but not just strip clubs. I mean, think about if you're purchasing a present for somebody, or you're making a big purchase, you want to purchase a car or a house. Do you want someone else knowing that you're doing that? And potentially they would know that. If you made a payment to them, right, they have your address. They know it's you. So then subsequent purchases that you make from that address could be tracked and associated to you. So that's why, again, privacy is very key. I can't emphasize that enough. If a project wants to be successful, they need privacy. And I think Charlie Lee understands that. I think he wants to obviously work with the government and make sure that there are tools there maybe for fighting maybe bad money transfers, but you need to maintain user privacy to be successful. So in terms of my coins, I'm going to start with my first one, which is Dent Coin. Dent, Dent is a project I followed for a long time. I've actually been involved in supporting this project back when it ICO'd, which was several months ago. And what they're trying to do is disrupt the mobile data space. I have a lot of other videos on Dent, so if you're interested in the project itself and the technical aspects of it, please take a look at those other videos. They also have announced that today they're releasing their iOS, or aka Apple, app version for their mobile data exchange. So it's basically an application, it's a platform that will allow you to buy and sell your mobile data, okay, from various telco companies, and potentially in the future, I believe Q3 of 2018, you could do it between users, in fact, selling your data into that exchange. It's a very innovative concept. What excites me about the project is the 2 million, potentially 2 million customers that'll be online in 2018, and that is unheard of in cryptos. If you compare it to other projects, no crypto project has really succeeded in getting outside the crypto nerd space to acquire that amount of users. So I expect to add more to my portfolio, but at this time, I'm somewhere around 5 to 10% in Dent in terms of my overall portfolio. And, I'll continue to follow and track the performance of this project in terms of Google Analytics, in terms of how many downloads are occurring, in terms of reviews. These are the kinds of things I look at. I don't just look at hype. So Dent's a cool project to follow. Again, just 5 to 10% for me. Certainly not risking everything in terms of my my wealth strategy here for Wealth of the Future. But Dent has been very good for me in 2017. And anybody who's followed this channel knows that Dent's had quite a ride, in the past month or two. So kudos to the Dent team. Really look forward to an awesome 2018, and we'll have to continue to follow this project, especially as it starts to expand into emerging markets. I'm not so excited about, it is great that they're releasing this in US and Mexico, but I'm more excited actually about what they do in countries that could really utilize this technology, and that's the unbanked populations that we have around the globe. So, Dent. The next project is, so that was 5 to 10%. The next project is Veritasium. Veritasium is another one that I only have 5% in, and some of you guys might probably have a lot more in terms of what you have in Veritasium. But from a technical basis, Veritasium, it can really disrupt the status quo banking system in terms of providing a peer-to-peer marketplace for assets, commodities, basically selling any kind of value, in fact, and doing it in such a way that you have smart contracts. It also gives you the ability to gain exposure to cryptocurrencies inversely. So you can, short different types of cryptocurrencies, which is not something you can usually get in the market. And that would be particularly useful for those of our Wall Street friends that are playing in these Wall Street exchanges, right, for Bitcoin futures markets, right? So they need to basically hedge their strategies when they're playing this. A lot of them have started to resort to probably, I would expect, buying actually Bitcoin if they're going to short Bitcoin to just make sure they're covered. But Veritasium is another example of that. And on top of that, potentially you have the ability for this type of technology to be used by countries, governments, to do complex infrastructure financing, I would think, okay, as an alternative to the banks. So really looking forward to what Veritasium does in 2018. Again, 5% of my portfolio. Certainly not betting the whole bank on this because of the fact that, a couple things. One, we expect more regulations in 2018. Veritasium could be a top candidate to go after in terms of because of what it's trying to do. Now, I think it'll succeed globally because there's other areas in the world that will actually welcome the technology of Veritasium, such as Jamaica. So Veritasium is still a project, in my opinion. What I'm doing, I should say, is supporting Veritasium, waiting to see what comes on the exchange, and particularly leveraging Veritasium and taking my portfolio and maybe putting it to work within Veritasium. So Veritasium, as someone really described very well, is the fire hose for the cryptocurrency market. It's not necessarily or it's the engine. It's not necessarily like I don't see Veritasium coin itself going up to $10,000 for a couple different reasons. One is the overall supply of Veritasium is relatively high, although the circulating supply is only around 2 million. So the Veritasium coin itself is very useful as a utility, but as a coin to actually make money off of, like the coin appreciation, I'm not looking to use it for that. I'm actually looking to use it as its software function. Okay, so those are two different things. So that's why I hold Veritasium, hold 5%, and I've determined that I need 5% to actually leverage my portfolio to gain exposure into the Veritasium platform. So we'll keep an eye on Veritasium. Check out some other videos on YouTube about it, and let me know what you guys think about that one. That one's very speculative, and again, that's why it's on the lower side of my portfolio holdings, because I'm a little bit conservative with how I'm allocating some of these. Up next is Singular DTV. Singular DTV, I hold 10% of my portfolio in this, maybe even actually a little bit more than 10% in my portfolio. So Singular DTV is basically creating a digital, decentralized entertainment ecosystem is the best way to describe it. I've done a couple videos on this. I'm not going to bore you guys with all the details, but Singular DTV is looking to develop what's called Ethervision in 2018. It is a technology that will allow content creators like myself, or even shows or movies, to launch projects on what's called Token, which is their project launchpad. It allows you to raise money, raise funds for your project, launch it on a platform that is kind of like YouTube, but allows you to actually get money from your viewers directly, okay, and it's trackable on the blockchain. Now, there's other aspects to the token economics which make this very favorable, both for content creators and also for token holders. So I'm going to try to play in both spaces and work with others to develop, maybe a channel, okay, on their network, where I cover different crypto projects. Maybe I interview different developers or leaders in the space, and there's a value in that content, right? People like to consume that content. They like information. So what if there was a way to capitalize on it? Maybe it's only 5 cents per show, okay? But if you have so many viewers, 5-10 cents starts to add up really quickly, especially if the information is very valuable for people. So Singular DTV is one of them that I continue to maintain. Unlike Dent and Veritasium, which actually, by the way, both of those have, for the most part, outperformed virtually any other coin project in 2017. I just want to say that. So Veritasium has done extremely well. Veritasium, I think, conservatively, at the ICO was $6. So you do the math, how much is that? Even if say somebody took out profits at $180, okay, that's still a very impressive run. That's like a 30 times run. Dent Wireless, Dent Mobile had a similar run from the times I did the video up to now. Even with a small pullback, they've done very well. They've held up very strong in a declining market. If you look at Ethereum and Bitcoin, both of those are down today, and there has been a small sell-off, but for a smaller project, it's done extremely well. I think above 30 times gain. So both of those have done extremely well, and I continue to hold smaller portions of it, and just excited to see what happens. So Singular DTV is one of those as well. But unlike those two, Singular DTV hasn't done as well in 2017. It's actually either stagnated or gone down a little bit. And partially it was due to the execution dates with that project. You know, it looked like the leads had anticipated Ethervision, for example, and a lot of these other technologies to come out sooner. And they're realizing that there's a lot more to it than that. So I was actually wrong on Singular DTV. And that's what makes this channel very, hopefully transparent for you guys. You guys can see that I'm true. Okay, I don't just like make up stuff. Okay, if I'm gonna come on the channel, I'm gonna tell you guys what I'm doing. Singular DTV, unfortunately, has been one of those, or fortunately, I should say, is one of those that I need to hold what I have. Okay, so I continue to back up the truck. I have conviction in this project. I know it's going to do okay, but you know it has some work and it has some hurdles to get over, especially in the media space. Now, what makes me excited about it is the fact that we see all around us right now, Hollywood, where I'm actually from Venice, you know, California. Hollywood is on flames. I mean, if you look at, you know, all the actors, all the actresses, all the directors, there's all kinds of weird stuff coming out right now. So the industry is rife with corruption, payoffs, and it seems like there's a witch hunt going on right now with all kinds of stuff, which this video, by the way, will probably be demonetized because of all this controversial stuff I'm talking about. But you guys like that content because you know it's genuine. The point is that there's a lot of shenanigans that are going on, and the media and the content that is being produced isn't of the quality necessarily that people want or demand. So what Singular DTV is going to do is it's going to provide a way for content creators to link up directly with their viewers. Okay, if you look at Netflix right now has a market cap of $86 billion. $86 billion. They don't have quite the innovative vision of Singular DTV. Singular DTV will have a lot of challenges, just like some of these other projects, and maybe doing what they're saying they're going to do. But I have reason to believe that we'll start to see some of that fruit in 2018. So I continue to hodl that. I am a Singular DTV Marine. I'm still a Dent Marine, and I don't know if I'd be considered a very Marine anymore, but I'm definitely a Dent Marine. And that's just a definition of having a couple millions of Dent. And I'm definitely a Singular DTV Marine right now. I mean, I'm deep in Singular DTV, and I don't hold anything back because I want you guys to know where I'm coming from. So you can either, again, throw tomatoes at me in 2018. You can come back here. You know, I'd say I'm going to probably do a revisit on a quarterly basis and see how this portfolio does. But Singular DTV, again, a little bit more than 10% in that project. So what's up, Jeff? I'm glad to hear that, yeah, Dent's working out for you. And I want to thank you for obviously tuning into my channel and supporting it. So hopefully we'll have much more valuable discussions. I'm actually also looking to have people just come on board and just give their perspective too, because, you know, I don't think anybody's ever 100% right. But that team has definitely done a lot of good things, and they've done a lot of good things well, delivering the project on time, executing, and not hyping, and that's something I respect. Singular DTV is kind of similar, although I do wish as a media company they because, you know, Dent is a technology, it's a mobile data platform. You know, they are disrupting the telco space, but that's what they're doing. Singular DTV is a media company. You know, they do TV, they do music, they do all these things. So from my perspective, you know, I'm a little bit surprised there hasn't been more marketing and more efforts to develop their community, because it is a different kind of project than Dent. Whereas Dent is a business, it is a business that is made to disrupt the telco space. They don't necessarily need the crypto nerd community, okay? Singular DTV, on the other hand, it is an ecosystem. It is a development ecosystem where you're actually making content on their platform. So it is a different type of relationship that actually does require, in my opinion, large amounts of user adoption and key content creators linking on and partnering with them today, not in 6 months from now. That's just my opinion. We're going to see how it turns out. Again, I continue to hodl because I believe in it, but I do have my own opinions about how the strategy could be tweaked to make it a little bit more successful and give it more visibility within the crypto space. Because right now, there's a lot of other projects, we can go down the list that, in my opinion, it's just pretty amazing that these projects are as far as they are, yet they haven't done nearly as much. An example of that, and hopefully no one throws an egg at me right now, would be Tron. Tron's at $2 billion. And you have a couple other projects on there too. So, like Dent, Singularity TV does not like to hype. And, I can respect that, but it does, you just have to be very patient. It's like with Dent, you have to be very patient with stuff. And that's what I'm learning, to be very patient. Even though I know certain things, you just have to give the teams time and let them do what they're going to do. So, next project we have is not going to surprise you guys, probably. Maybe some of you guys, but it's more of a, like, Wealth of the Future. I knew you were going to, invest in that one because I think most people do believe this is a legitimate project within the Ethereum space. And that project is none other than Amisa Go. And by the way, guys, for the record, all these projects I'm listing, and those that are in the chat will know, I don't really accept any support or any kind of, I'm not affiliated with any of these projects, okay? I I throw salt in the wound sometimes at some of these project leads and the Telegram chats, and I'm can be pretty controversial with some of my thoughts. So it's a no holds barred Wild West style, just confession here about things I hold and what I think about them. But Amisa Go is one of them that I did take a position in, and this is again around that 10-ish% range for my portfolio. Okay. Now, this one is also geared towards banking the unbanked and creating this DEX, aka decentralized exchange. And those are very critical because we see a lot of manipulation in the crypto space right now. A lot of people don't talk about that, but like HitBTC, a lot of these exchanges do a lot of shitty shenanigans to people. And I know this is going to get me probably demonetized or whatever, but a lot of them do all kinds of weird stuff. I had issues with Polo earlier this year. I think some of you guys may have seen that video where actually was up quite a bit, I think 3 or 4 times, and Polo decided to pull a funny one on me where they held the funds for 2 months. Okay, and I think what it was a naked short. I don't think it was. I mean, in this world we live in, we're in 2017. We're not in 1992. So why would you hold someone's funds for 2 months and just have it stuck in terms of transactions? I mean, and this was happening to thousands of people. This wasn't just myself. So I had a feeling that maybe they had some kind of an issue with maybe the collateral or the minimums they were holding. And, it's very hard to audit these exchanges and systems because they're not open source. They're not open to everybody. So one of the keys with Amisa Go is to actually create that DEX and create one that is user-friendly. Now, I have done a lot of research on this, and obviously there are a lot of other projects out there that are doing this, and we have some of them available today. One of them would be EtherDelta. So EtherDelta is a technology right now that exists that you can go to, and it is basically decentralized. You move your coins from your wallet, you move them into the wallet or you can actually use your MyEther wallet, connect it with EtherDelta, and then trade that in the trading account or the trading address and facilitate all the trades peer-to-peer through a smart contract, okay, that is auditable. The problem with it is for most non-crypto nerds, it is not very friendly, okay, and it's very intimidating for people. And also we've seen recently that there's been some hacks on EtherDelta. There hasn't been a lot of updates in improving it. There's a little bit of a developer swag, in my opinion, by the guy that maybe did it. And at this point, he's just like, I made my money, and he's probably just chilling, right? So Amisa Go could potentially provide that need in the marketplace right now, which is something that is usable for most people. Okay, it's accessible, it's easy to use, it's intuitive, It's fast, it's responsive, and it has the coins that you would want to trade, right? And as we start to see thousands and thousands of coins and projects come online, it's going to become a more important need to have some kind of marketplace that does that function that I just said. Because how else are you going to be able to transact value without maybe resorting to some centralized exchange that'll just steal your money? And I think that's a legitimate concern. And also think about the backdrop of government regulations. And again, you need to have something that is decentralized that may get around any kind of extreme crackdown, okay? I'm not saying you can't have regulation, but I'm saying like, someone's just gonna seize assets from people without any undue process. That is, I don't think that's right, okay? So Amisego, that's one of the reasons why I support Amisego. The other one is the on-banking type features and technologies they're going to come up with to link merchants and businesses in both developed and undeveloped regions across the globe with, for the first time in history, really, banking facilities, right, that they would have in their hands. They become a bank essentially, and that is exciting. If anybody doesn't get that, you must be smoking. I don't know what to tell you. So 15% in Amisego just for that, just almost as the, close the eyes, throw it in there, not looking at it, 2017, 2018, just riding it through. And I backed up the truck. I'm not going to lie. Wealth of the Future here, I backed up the truck on that project, just like I did with Dent several months before it had its run. I backed up the truck on Amisego. I don't have any problem saying that because, again, I throw it out there to you guys. Throw an egg at me in 2018. We'll come back and we'll see if these calls were right. And, we'll just write it out like that. So Amisego, that was the next. That was the one after Singular DTV. Next one is one that I've actually, another one that I've recently added, and I'm going to explain why. This one is called PayPi. PayPi is a project that actually has been talked about for some time. There's been a couple folks that have done some great YouTube videos on it. I admittedly didn't get into PayPi during the ICO. I don't, normally don't do that anyway. But the other thing is, I was a little bit averse to ICOs recently because what I've seen is a trend for these ICOs to, hype and then just crash like nothing. So I tended to avoid some of these until I knew a little bit more about the technologies and actually saw that the price for the most part would maintain its relative value. I mean, I'm not a noob here. I can take a hit, but 90% down is pretty bad, and some of these have actually done that, which I'm glad I avoided. So what PayPi is trying to do is basically credit risk assessment on the blockchain. And I think this is going to be important for a couple different reasons, and I don't want to waste your time, so I'm just going to get into the thick of it. The main reason I see this being a key technology, okay, is we're going to continue to see smart contracts being developed in real businesses, not new businesses, not the businesses I'm talking about today, but actual businesses that exist today. And those smart contracts are going to need a way to assess risk with one business to another business, or one business to a customer, or a customer to a customer. How can you do that without some type of new innovation that is a plug and play within these smart contracts? There's no way to do it. PayPi, in my opinion, solves a lot of that issue. PayPi could even be used in a product like Veritasium, right? That has a software technology that brings, a peer-to-peer marketplace, right? With facilitation of infrastructure financing or a large company doing financing potentially, okay? And going away from the banks and using crypto nerds or people who want to finance these things because they want to return their money. Now, obviously, if you, want to loan somebody money, which I'm all for, I'm all for free markets. I'm all for helping companies grow, right, and succeed. But one of the things that's important as an investor is to know risk, right? To assess risk so that you can determine what the right risk and reward is going to be and whether that is appropriate for you. There's no way to really do that without a model, without some type of tool to assess that risk. PayPi does that, and it will fit very well into the smart contracts that will be emerging and developed not only in 2018, but for many years to come. So companies like PayPi, if it's not PayPi, a company like PayPi will be very successful, in my opinion. So that's why I hold PayPi. Again, not too much here, a little under 10% for PayPi. So that's what I got going on there. Okay, we'll see how it goes. If it does very well, if it crashes, again, my analysis, my strategy right now is about 50% right on these. And when I say right, I mean I'm hitting it like Dent and Veritasium. I don't mean just right like, well, it went up 3 times. That's, to me, it's not success. When I look at these, I'm looking for a, you guys are going to laugh, but a minimum of 5 to 10 times return at a minimum. Okay? So you even know the criteria to judge me on for next year. This is, I actually wrote all this down, and I laid out the risk reward, and I laid out how much potentially could be returned. And that's how I came up with the buckets of what I'm going to be doing and what I did. The last one is I'm really gonna get people to throw eggs at me, I think, because it's anti-Ethereum. But and you guys already probably know what I'm gonna go with then. But it is EOS, okay? And EOS is about 15% of my portfolio. 15%, okay? So EOS is one of those that, how can I put it? And by the way, these percentages can change because I just want to mention that when I did these, obviously the prices gyrate. So you guys can get a rough assessment for, my allocations, but just keep in mind the volatility of the market will change those percentages, and it might not line up exactly when you do the analysis on this video. So keep that in mind, but for the most part, you guys get a gist for where I'm allocating my portfolio, okay? Just to be transparent with you guys. Now, why did I do 15% in EOS? I did 15% in EOS for two main reasons. One is I have my doubts about the scaling of Ethereum. Now, don't throw eggs at me and don't just get mad because you're an Ethereum fanboy or fangirl, or you've made a lot of money in Ethereum, or you think that's the only thing. And I respect like Mike B and Silvertooth and all anybody who's on YouTube. I mean, I respect you guys, and I've learned a lot from you guys, and it's been probably one of the best times of my life in terms of learning, and just I'm that type of person that loves to learn and absorb information and just think through things as an engineer, especially. One of the things with Ethereum, though, that we did see recently is this CryptoKitties, the stupid CryptoKitties app, and it totally destroyed the network in terms of doing any types of transactions or trading. Now, a lot of these projects are dealing with this right now by doing what's called a parachain, like we see with Dent Wireless, right? They're doing a parachain to get around this issue, potentially with the scaling through Ethereum. And Ethereum has mentioned, they're going to have some solutions for this, but we're nearing 2018, and so far, there hasn't been concrete, notice or communication out that, yes, this is the strategy we're going to go with. Here's the roadmap for 2018, and this is how many transactions per second we're going to get in 2018. I haven't seen anything like that. So if you guys are aware of that, please link it in my comment section below. But until I see that, as someone who is building wealth within cryptocurrencies, and as an engineer who thinks about risk reward, I think what I'm doing anyway is I'm doing a 15% it's basically like an insurance policy on my portfolio, okay? And this is how it works. If Ethereum is not able to get its act together with a lot of these projects. And let's say 2018 comes by. Well, I want you guys to imagine something. We have all these projects I listed here. You guys have a number of your other projects, okay? Let's say all these are successful in terms of their deliverables. I want to ask you something else. How many of those projects actually have a deliverable in 2018? How many of them actually have said they're going to develop an application in 2018? I would wager that at least 25, 30, maybe even more of those projects actually say they are ready to deploy their app in 2018. What does that mean for a network? It means exponential demand for transactions on a network. We saw what happened with CryptoKitties, okay? What happened with CryptoKitties is child's play to what would happen if you have thousands, or not even thousands, let's just say hundreds of apps, and hot apps that entirely change the way the world is done. Commerce is done, right? If Ethereum is actually truly successful, it can potentially kill itself in a way, right? Because it's so successful. There's so many, so many transactions going on that the network is clogged and nothing actually works. And that's my fear. So to address that, and for projects that aren't as forward-thinking as Dent, for example, which is doing a parachain, which maybe should mitigate some of those concerns, I took a look at EOS. And I did this look at 60 to 85 cents. A lot of people who are following this channel know that. That's on record, okay? And a lot of people who I chat with on Telegram know that I did that. So I'm not just making stuff up. I went in at that amount. There were some other occasions at, the $1 plus amount, and just hodled and continue to hodl EOS, okay? So EOS is one to follow. In my opinion, the testnet is already out. They launch middle of next year. And if Ethereum, for whatever reason, just continues to pull shenanigans, or they are so successful that there's transactional issues on their network, I expect EOS to do extremely well. And when I say extremely well, I'm not going to mention a price, but I think it can easily compete with Ethereum, which sounds very bold, but in the grand scheme of things, it isn't if you have the solution. If you're in a desert and you are thirsty for water, and there's one dude there with water, how much would you pay that person to consume the water? You'd pay a lot of money, right? Now, imagine though if you saw a store nearby that had lots of water, right? Imagine if that one dude who was selling the water, and it was just slow at giving the water away to each of these people who are so thirsty for water. Imagine if a store just popped out of nowhere and started giving away water like crazy, and almost gave it away for free and said, you can have this water, but in terms of maybe our interactions, maybe XYZ happens, or maybe they're giving you water to grow your crops, and then that flourishes. That's kind of what EOS is doing if you think about it. EOS is making, it's potentially, if you have the tokens as part of their mechanism, you have the ability to own a certain amount of bandwidth on their network. So if Ethereum has problems, actually that bodes very well. If Ethereum is very successful and has problems, that actually bodes very well for EOS. So it's a heads, you win, tails, you win, in my opinion. Because if Ethereum fails to demonstrate technology next year, EOS goes up. If Ethereum does very well and products are going like crazy and they don't have the transaction problem solved, EOS goes up. So that is my, still, I think, in my opinion, a sleeper is EOS, or even maybe like a Cardano if you're like a Cardano fan. I'm not really into Cardano. I'm not into academics, frankly. I'm into practical engineering solutions and securing life, liberty, and property, okay, and prosperity. That's what I'm about. So that is basically my portfolio. You guys, have it here for the record. I'm not gonna, take this video down. This is what I'm going with, and love to hear you guys' thoughts on what I put together. Just as a recap, core MacDaddy holdings are Bitcoin and Litecoin at 50%, and then a smaller allocation of the projects as follows: Dent, Veritasium, Singular DTV, AmisiGo, PayPi, and EOS. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your comments, questions, and yeah, here's to a prosperous 2018, barring huge amounts of volatility, which I expect, and we have to be ready for that. We have to position our tummies and be ready to be a Marine, as they say, okay, as we would say here. For those that have followed this channel for a while, I'm definitely into that strategy of just being Marine. And what I mean by that is you have to be very strong-willed, and you have to persevere through the FUD. Okay, there's going to be a lot of FUD and a lot of FOMO, a lot of people chasing stuff, and you can't catch yourself in that. You have to just pick your battles, hold your trench lines, okay, and keep your powder dry, and just have a strategy and just review your thesis. In fact, I'd recommend everybody make a video like this as their thesis as to why they did certain things. And that way, when things get tough, you can go back, you can review why you are in the things you're in. Because there's going to come a time in 2018 where I'm going to need to do that. I already know. And so I'm going to need to revisit this video. So I figured I'd share it with you guys. Hope you guys are having a beautiful day. Shout out to Vass at Dent and everybody else. Shout out to Mike B and Crypto Blood, who has a great channel himself. If I could recommend different channels, I do. I'm not affiliated with them, but I tell you guys like it is. Channels I actually find valuable information from. I would say, Mike B is one of those that you can actually get great information from his channel. Great content there. I've been following that dude since I remember his first video or something, okay? Crypto Blood too. I mean, awesome content. And there's a couple others on there, but I mean, obviously people have their favorites. I would say I like those two. I'm not really a fan of Bix Weir or JSNP4. That's just my opinion. I tend to, gravitate towards what I consider real dudes. We're gonna put it out there, let everybody know what they're holding, where they've made mistakes, some of the critiques on the projects. I really respect that kind of stuff. So I'd recommend you guys follow that. If you like this channel, hit that like button, consider subscribing, and yeah, we'll see you next time. Peace.